Hi guys, it's Louise Matson, intuitive channel and conduit for energy healing, and the host for the Mundane to Magical Summit. I just wanted to pop on and do a video to give you feedback on the wonderful responses that I received from the survey. And I want to thank everybody who responded via the survey from the bottom of my heart. I was quite overwhelmed by the number of responses. And just to say that for those of you who I haven't managed to connect with personally to give personalised feedback, I am still working through the list, but mixing it in with client calls. So I will get round to contacting you directly. And thank you very much for completing the survey, sharing your thoughts and requesting some personalised feedback from me as well. But just for those who are interested in what the results were, I thought I would do a quick video just to give a brief summary and any messages that Spirit wanted to bring through with regards to the responses. So as I said, I had so many responses, so thank you so much to everybody who did complete the survey. And if you haven't yet completed the survey and you would like to, then I will also pop the link on the email that I'm sending this video out on, so that you can complete the survey if you so choose. So out of all the responses, it was a pretty even split between people who trust their intuition and act upon it, and for those who receive guidance but just need some external validation on what the guidance is giving them. So it may be that you receive guidance and messages and you go and ask somebody, or you check it out in another way, shape or form. There's a delay in that receiving the guidance and then taking the action on it. So that was basically an equal split between those two groups. There were some people who felt that they received their guidance but they didn't trust it, and there were a very small percentage actually who said that they didn't feel they received any guidance at all. Now, one of the things that Spirit really wants to share is that everybody is able and is actually receiving guidance from their highest aspect of self, from their intuition. It's just often that we are so used to not paying any attention to it, not connecting with it, that we often misinterpret or don't even realize that we're actually receiving guidance in the first place. It's like they show me a radio dial, and we've all been trained through our education system, through the majority of our families, to be dialed into Ego FM, so very much in the personality self arena, and listening to our brain mind, listening to the ideas and the concepts of reality through that very third dimensional aspect of ourself, based on what we've been taught to believe as truth. And we're not taught as children quite often. In fact, we naturally have this predisposition to be connected to our intuition, connected to our inner guidance, and we're quite often taught to dismiss that. And so most people go through the majority of their lives losing the understanding of how our intuition speaks to us, and therefore perceive that we're never receiving any messages, when in fact the universe is talking to us all the time, whether it be through a film that you watch and you're really struck by a certain message in that film, or you see a sign on a notice board, a billboard, or a line in a song, or just through synchronicity. You're thinking of a certain thing, and then you basically receive the answer, or a friend contacts you and you have a conversation about the particular question that you had in mind, or a podcast amazingly appears on your YouTube channel and it's talking about, or relaying information related to that which you were thinking or asking about in the first place. But we don't join up the dots, and we don't join up the dots because we don't understand how spirit talks to us. And spirit talks to us mostly through symbolism. It's actually, we all have the ability to see beyond physical sight, hear beyond physical hearing, to know the deep wisdom within ourselves, or to feel. So clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, and clairsentience. We all have those abilities, but it's whether or not we've been allowed to develop them, or whether there's been something in our life path that has meant that we've deliberately shut those, some of them down. For example, I shut down clairvoyance and clairaudience because they were two obvious signs of madness for me, and that was one aspect of my life journey. I wasn't going to go anywhere near that. So for me, it was claircognizance and clairsentience that came through very strongly. So I would know and I would feel. And that's how the universe communicated with me, until I became comfortable seeing and hearing as well. And quite often it is, a lot of people are connected to their gut instinct, and it's that deep sense of knowing. And it's just that you can't explain it, you can't understand it. It's just there. You just know something is true or false, or, you may even get a deep sense of knowing about something that's about to happen, or something that's true for you. So moving on to the next question in the survey, the majority of people, over 80%, actually felt that their intuition is essential to overall success and happiness, which is a really large amount of people. And what interested me was that so many people felt that it was actually essential to their overall success, and yet out of that same group of people, more than half either didn't trust or needed an external source to validate their intuition. So that absolute connection, that alignment to their truth wasn't there. They didn't feel capable of receiving guidance and taking action completely in trust and faith that it was the right thing to do for them. The next question was about the current situation, the current global upheaval, and what aspects of people are struggling with most. And it's going to be no surprise, I think, that 32% of people are struggling with money to pay the bills, because obviously so many people have been affected by the current lockdown situation globally, and their jobs, their livelihoods have been affected, impacted. You may have lost your jobs, or you may have been furloughed. That's what's been happening in the UK, where the hours have been cut, or you've been laid off, but you've been receiving a certain percentage of your wage. So there's a lot of people that feel that they're struggling at this minute with money to pay the bills. And then the next highest was fear of the future, limiting beliefs and the mindset. And again, it's very easy to kind of fall into that pattern when all we see on the television and the radio is, the fear-based thoughts about what is happening. And it's quite often very difficult to kind of fall into that 0 point, that space in the heart where you're able to kind of tune into your inner wisdom and get that deeper sense of knowing about what is going on a wider multidimensional perspective. And I think for me, it's been absolutely essential to have that ability to tune in, so that when I am triggered, and I have been triggered, as many people have during this current global situation, I can experience the trigger. I can allow myself to feel fully what it is that I'm being drawn to feel, and identify the thoughts and the beliefs and the programs that are running through me that have that this trigger has enabled me to witness. And then I can fall into my heart center, and I can connect in with my truth and gain a wider perspective on the situation, so that I can then allow myself to surrender to the processes, surrender to the moment that I'm in, but have that overall feeling and knowing that everything is perfect and in perfect timing. And I may not understand fully the universal aspect of what is going on, and yet I know that it's all part of the Great Awakening. It's all part of the global ascension. It's all part of us remembering our truth, connecting with our truth, and embodying that. And sometimes it does feel very scary when we experience change, and we're shifting from one paradigm into another. And for any of you who have witnessed or experienced the birthing process, birth is messy, birth can be painful, it can be scary. There's never any guarantees that everything is going to go smoothly. And yet, it's a massive transition from one state into the next, and you're birthing this new life, this new creation. And also, the gestation process as well, it takes time. And, for people who are, first time in this experience, it is quite a scary and unknown space to be. And you're not quite sure. You read all the books, and yet your experience of it may not be in alignment with what you've read others' experiences to be. So that's what we're going through. We're going through this birthing process, and it's the Tower card in the tarot deck. The old paradigm is collapsing and falling away, and that feels very destructive. It feels very chaotic. And sometimes we can only get focused on that, and that's where the personality self is going to be focused, because it's everything that we've ever known is falling apart and changing. Your egoic aspect of self is not going to feel comfortable. So again, it's essential in a way to have that connection with your truth, with the multidimensional aspect of you that has gone through many, many shifts and changes. Just coming into this physical incarnation, we've shifted from, an incredibly high vibration into a much lower vibration. So that whole experience of birth from an incarnated soul is something to go through in itself. And so it's essential to have and enable ourselves to have that wider perspective at this time, in whatever way that works for you. So whether that's getting out into nature, whether that's switching off the television for a bit, whether it's doing something that brings you joy or brings you love and enables you to get into that that space of peace and stillness, whether it's receiving the love from your pets or going out into the garden, it doesn't matter, but giving yourself that space, and not just space physically, but space internally, to switch off from the panic that is going to be experienced by your egoic aspect of self as it watches everything that it's known just seeming to fall into chaos or crumbling around itself, and allowing yourself to connect with the kind of the death rebirth cycle, in so much as that cycle, if you focus on one aspect, can feel really destructive, but everything happens for a reason. And through the death aspect, new life is formed. And sometimes we have to clear away the old for the new to be able to be fully birthed. And I think some of the things that I've really held on to is just the beauty of the fact that during this global lockdown, this global pause that we've experienced, We've seen the clarity of the air improve. We've seen the clarity of the water improve. There have been positive aspects. And I think that's also something that the universe gives us. You know, it never gives us more than we can handle, although it does feel like it's pushing us to our limits sometimes. But it always gives us a light at the end of the tunnel. It always gives us something to anchor onto. And it's when we are able to be open to that wider perspective and not so honed into those limiting beliefs and the programs of fear that run within ourselves, that we're able to see that and experience that. And so it's something to just kind of hook onto and go, okay, yeah, I'm going to hold on to this beautiful aspect of this current situation so that I can actually get myself into a place of peace within myself, and not focus on my worries, not focus on the fears, not focus on the triggers that I'm experiencing. Yes, it's important to do the shadow work and allow yourself to be triggered and to integrate and flow through that process to release the trapped emotions that actually we've had within us for decades. But we also need that break. We need that silence. We need that space. So some people, again, are feeling emotionally triggered, emotionally overwhelmed by everything. And again, many people who are listening to this, many people who attend the Mundane to Magical Summit or any other summit are extremely sensitive. And so this is about your self-care. And this global pause has really been around us reevaluating, reflecting, taking that time to consider ourselves, how we are, you know, how we're living in the world. Are we living in resonance with our truth? You know, allowing ourselves to connect in with our truth, you know, and that is also allowing yourself to switch the television off if you're feeling overwhelmed, to go out in nature, to do those things that are going to support you. And again, it doesn't matter how that looks. You know yourself better than anybody. And so allow yourself to connect with your body, allow yourselves to start having those conversations with yourself. Okay, what's going to bring me joy in this moment? What do I need right now? If I'm feeling overwhelmed, what do I need? And allow yourself the space to receive that response, because you will be given a response. But just understanding that we need to open our awareness of communication and how our intuition communicates with us so that we can actually start tuning in. And again, they're showing me this dial between Ego FM and Divine FM, which is kind of how they show me how we, you know, what frequency we're tuning into. There can sometimes be an awful lot of white noise. And I don't know if any of you remember the old TV sets where you had to turn the dial. And you would turn the dial to try and tune into a channel. And in between, the screen would go all fuzzy and there would be zigzaggy pictures until you actually tuned into the perfect channel. And that is that white noise in between. So if you're so used to being an Ego FM and that's all you've really listened and connected to, you may actually have to dial through quite a bit of white noise, which is just the interference that's in your field. So remembering yourself as an energetic being, you are more than this physical form. You are more than the roles that you play. And allowing yourself to clear your field, claim sovereignty of your own energetic space. And maybe even your environmental space, your home. So taking this time to literally declutter, to clear that bandwidth between Ego FM and Divine FM. So doing cleansing techniques, allowing yourself to ground, clearing, decluttering your home, decluttering yourself of blocked emotions, decluttering yourself of the limiting beliefs that are literally just overlay programs running through your operating system. This is an opportunity to upgrade your own system and to actually see yourself as more than just your physical form, this physical body. Clearing, you know, physically, doing a detox, whatever you're being drawn to doing, allow the inspiration to flow through you. So if, like me, you suddenly felt inclined to completely declutter, I had a massive clear out during this period. And I realized, you know, that I was holding on to books and just stuff in general that, you know, I hadn't used, and energetically, they were parts of my past. And so I just had a big clear out, and it felt, as we do one thing, we do all things, and as within, so without. And so as I decluttered my outer reality, I felt lighter inside as well. And equally, as we declutter our internal landscape, our outer reality is going to reflect that as well. There's videos on my YouTube channel, I think it's Lou Matson on my YouTube channel, that go through cleansing techniques, grounding techniques, and also protection. But rather than protection, just seeing it as setting your boundaries. And one of the simplest way of setting your boundaries is the ability to say no. So, you know, tuning in when you're being asked to do something by another, or, you know, if something's coming up for you, just allowing yourself to tune in and discerning within your own energetic field, how does this feel? Am I being pulled and drawn to doing this? Does it feel light and exciting? Or is there some energy that doesn't resonate with this? Or, you know, it may be a friend asks you to do them a favor, and, you know, you don't feel like doing it that day, and actually all you want to do that day is go back to bed and tuck yourself up in your blanket. If you then forced yourself to do that which is not in alignment with your truth, you're basically going against your own energy, you're going against your own flow, and you're allowing the outer energy to enter your field because your boundaries are loose. And so, you know, just the simple ability to tune in and say, well, how am I feeling today? Is it in alignment with me? And actually, no, today it's not. But that doesn't mean to say that tomorrow it will be in alignment. So just trusting and allowing yourself to connect with how you're feeling and what you actually want to do, as opposed to what you feel you should do or you have to be doing. So this is just a few things that Spirit is guiding at this time. If you are in overwhelm, clearing, decluttering internally, externally, and setting those clear boundaries. We often get overwhelmed as sensitives because our boundaries are non-existent. We're like a sponge soaking up the energies of the collective around us. And for some of us, that is our role, to be the conduit for that energy to flow and release. But for the majority of us, it's purely because we're not setting our boundaries and saying, you know, this is my sovereign space, and I'm only allowing that of the highest and greatest good to enter. You know, we need to be starting to set commands and decrees about what we're allowing to enter into our space, because a lot of what affects us emotionally and mentally is what we're actually allowing into our space, whether it be consciously or unconsciously. So having that awareness, I am more than my physical body. I extend out, you know, quite a few feet beyond my physical form, and I have sovereignty. I'm claiming sovereignty over this space, so that I'm dictating what I allow into, and therefore to affect my personal energetic field. The next one that came up was difficulty relating to friends and loved ones. And at this moment in time, a lot of people are being triggered. A lot of people are becoming aware of things not being quite as they seemed. And again, it's the tower being demolished, and it's going to rock a lot of people's worlds. And so a lot of people are going to be coming from very defensive space, or they're going to be very fearful or very angry and very closed off, because quite often we close our field to protect ourselves. And I know that's something that I definitely did throughout my younger years, just to protect myself from a world that didn't get me and that I didn't get, and I was trying to fit in, but I wasn't in resonance. And so I would build these walls of protection, and that's an automatic response to fear and to feeling threatened. And so when we're on this ascension journey, this is about us being able to stand in our truth and to let go of the attachments that everybody else out there has to agree with us, or that we have to agree with them. And it's that ability to be okay, and for me to have my truth and for you to have your truth, and it's equally respected and valid. So this is about allowing yourself to accept who you are and respect who you are, and accept and respect other people as well. But you're going to find that not everybody's in that space. So again, it's how you respond to that, and how you allow yourself to stay stood in your power, stood in your truth. And again, that's all about your boundaries and that deeper sense of connection with your truth. The stronger you are in your connection with your truth, the more able you are to fully respect and stand in your power. If you're a bit wavering on what you believe your truth to be, well, then we can get blown by the winds. If it's blowing this way, we'll get blown this way. If it's blowing that way, we'll get blown that way. And that's when we start people pleasing, and we start appeasing others and putting other people's truth before our own. Spirit saying, in truth, there is nothing outside of you that you need. Everything that you need and require for your entire journey in this incarnation is within. So, you know, there is no guidance, there is no truth outside of yourself. It's all within, and it's about our ability to tune into our own divine FM and trust that guidance, trust those messages, and actually embody that truth within ourselves in everything that we do, our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. And yes, sometimes that is going to put us in opposition to another's views and another's truth, and they may well be responding to the current events from a very highly emotive space, but it's about us remaining neutral, divine, and loving of ourselves in what we know to be our truth, and allowing somebody else to have their opinion, but not necessarily allowing that opinion to sway us in our actions, our emotions, and our thoughts. The next one was, where am I? There we go. Lack of freedom. Again, lack of freedom has been affecting everybody globally with the lockdown situation. I think most people are coming out of lockdown now to a certain extent. But then there's also, from a more spiritual perspective, that feeling that we are not free to have our own beliefs, free to live the life that we want to live. And again, what Spirit is saying is our inner landscape reflects the outer reality. And for me, the realization that actually, you know, my focus has been freedom and joy for the last 5 years. And for me, I had the realization over that time, as I was really focused on that I haven't been free. And, you know, even though I live in a free society, very blessed to live in a free society on this planet, I haven't been completely free, because again, I've been locked into my own internal dialogue as to what is possible and what isn't. And freedom from an internal perspective actually means being open to all possibilities and all opportunities. And so it really is about releasing all of those limiting beliefs, releasing all of that trapped emotion, releasing all attachments to fear. That is when we are fully free. And so if that is something that you're experiencing, then it's an opportunity to go within and finding out, where am I not free within? Where am I holding myself contained? Where am I containing myself inside myself? You know, do I hold any fears? Are there things that stop me internally from doing that which I love to do, or that which I believe resonates with me? So this is an opportunity really to, whatever it is that you're feeling triggered by in the outer reality, really having that opportunity to go within and find your own answers and clear out those beliefs, let those emotions flow, honor the space that's hidden within you and go there. You know, walk in your own darkness with your torch, with your heart light, and allow the light to shine on that which is laid hidden and dormant within you, and really start clearing out your own internal cupboards. And as we all do that, if we all did our own internal work and really released ourselves from all the shackles that we've placed on ourselves, from all the limiting beliefs, from all the trapped emotions, and we really allowed everything to flow and surrendered to that process fully, loving and accepting ourselves fully, bringing all aspects of ourselves together in unity, we would see that shift occurring in our outer reality, and those external representations of our internal shadow, if you like, would not have no reason to exist. And so we would see the transformation from the death cycle into the rebirth cycle so much quicker. And the 100th monkey, Spirit saying the 100th monkey effect, don't forget that, because it doesn't take everybody. You know, it doesn't mean that everybody on this planet has to do this and be in alignment. There is a tipping point. And when that tipping point is reached, it just cascades out collectively. And so for those of us who have this awareness, for those of us who are interested and, you know, interested in doing our internal work, it doesn't matter where you are on your path, whether you've been doing this work for 20 years or you've only just started, it's relevant. If we're doing the work properly, seriously, allowing ourselves to process our own pain and wounds and release that trapped energy, release all that no longer serves us, all that is no longer in alignment or resonance with our truth, then we would see that effect outwardly in our outer reality, and things would shift. Just like, you know, overnight, the whole global situation shut down, which no one would ever believe possible. We would see that process in the reverse, you know, turning into the creation of New Earth now, because New Earth already exists. Just looking to see if there was another one. Yeah, the next big one was what action to take next. And again, this is why tuning in and being able to tune into your inspiration, your intuition, is so essential, because the universe is never going to give you the whole roadmap. And that's what the ego wants. The ego wants the whole map. It wants everything guaranteed before I take any action. But the universe doesn't work like that. It tends to show you the next step or the next step, or it brings you inspiration in terms of doors of opportunity. We can only see them if we're open to seeing the doors of opportunity. And we can only step through those doors of opportunity if we actually trust the guidance that we're being given. So it's kind of like a bit of a chicken and the egg. We have to get to a point where we're able to kind of sit within ourselves, to connect with our guidance in whatever way, shape, or form it's going to show up for us, and tune in, find a way of tuning in. Now, some people use pendulums to ask questions. There's a pendulum. And you can ask the pendulum to show you a yes, and you can ask the pendulum to show you a no. And that's one way of doing it. Some people use muscle testing. I use muscle testing by asking my body to show me a yes, and my yes is a circular motion and a no is a forwards and backwards. But it's finding a way that works for you to connect with your intuition. And then it's about building that relationship. When you build that relationship and you connect with your intuition clearly, you're able to discern. You're able to then discern, is this in alignment? Is this not? Now, understanding that sometimes things are going to seem really left field. And actually, in all honesty, that's how I started to really trust my intuition, because I knew that my head would never have come up with that. Take, for example, the summit. 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm woken with Mundane to Magical. I had no idea what it was. I knew I couldn't get to sleep again unless I committed to it. I commit to it, I fall asleep. And over the next 2 months, I'm drip fed what that actually meant, what it was that I committed to. So sometimes we're going to feel that something is in alignment, but we have no idea where it's taking us. And we have no idea where the inspiration came from. And that is a big clue that it's actually divine inspiration, because your head would never have come up with it. And then it's about building that trust. And you don't have to take a leap of faith immediately. You can take baby steps. So if you're shown something and it feels actually that it's not going to really rock your world if you do this thing, just try it. Try following and taking action in alignment, because the more you build, it's like muscle training. The more you build that spiritual muscle in, I've received this guidance and I'm going to take action on it, then the stronger that connection comes. And so when something big comes along and you're being called to change your job or move home or change your relationship or, start a relationship, then you've already built that muscle up to go, okay, yeah, I've had enough evidence to say to my ego, do you know what, the sky didn't fall in when we did this last thing, so I'm going to go for this because it feels in alignment. So what action to take next? Feel into what feels right. And if nothing is coming through, understanding that it's not always about doing. Sometimes it's about being. Sometimes it's we're in this rapids and everything's like really fast and furious and bang bang bang, we're being called to do all these different things, and sometimes we're in a completely still pond. And I know for me, during this particular global event, I have been shut down. I've literally felt switched off. There was nothing coming through. I had no inspiration to do anything. And so I basically rested. I allowed myself to do nothing, because that was basically the guidance that was coming through. There was no inspiration. There was no guidance to do anything. It felt really uncomfortable because we're very much used to doing. But a lot of times, we're going to be just asked by our energy field, by our bodies, to just stop, maybe reflect, take stock, reevaluate things, or maybe just nurture yourself, rest and nurture yourself, because you've been running on empty for so long. You need to refill your cup. So sometimes the next step forward is actually to do nothing. And if you allow yourself that space to do nothing and replenish your cup, then the next golden step will appear ahead of you. There were a lot of individual answers, and so thank you so much for sharing your individual issues that you're struggling with. But we'll move on to what matters to people right now. The highest one overall, with over 50% of people were saying living my purpose, which is really beautiful, because that's what this whole awakening ascension process is about. It's about allowing ourselves to connect with the fact that we haven't been living our soul purpose, and feeling that there's so much more to our lives than what we've been currently experiencing. And finally getting to the point where you're actively involved in connecting with what your purpose is. There was a large number of people saying developing a clearer connection to their intuition. The next one was identifying intuitive gifts and talents and using them. Eliminating limiting beliefs and gaining a deeper trust of the intuition. And accessing creativity was the lowest, but there wasn't much in it between those middle three. So living your purpose and developing a higher connection to your intuition. I mean, I've already discussed developing a higher connection to intuition, clearing out that bandwidth of white noise, dropping into your heart center, allowing your heart's voice to be heard, dropping out of your head where your egoic mind is, and dropping into this space, which we're not used to doing, and it can feel strange, it can feel uncomfortable, but just tuning into that heart center in whatever way feels good for you. I will say that with regards to your life purpose or your soul purpose or your particular mission, because a lot of people are feeling that they do have a particular mission. For those of you who are, on your awakening journey or have been, you are the forerunners, you are the pioneers, you are the people who are here to come into self-mastery, to assist those that are coming behind us. To assist those people who at the minute seem absolutely asleep and unaware that they are more than their physical forms, and the ones that are really being rocked by some of the things that are coming out at this time. The child trafficking, and we've had this view on what our world has been like, and then all of a sudden somebody's taken these blinkers off and we're being seen beyond what we saw before, what was in our awareness. And for a lot of people, that's going to be really rocking their worlds, and they're not going to want to they're not ready to take it all in. They're not ready to shift and connect with the wider truth of who they are. And so, the role of those who are awakening or awakened at this time is to kind of, master ourselves so that we are in those positions to assist those around us. And we only need to be a couple of steps ahead to be able to do that. And not everybody is going to be standing on a podium or doing YouTube videos and things like that. You may be the grandparent to people who are awakening, and the grandparent that supports that journey, as opposed to what we may have experienced during our lives. Or you may be a teacher, or you may be somebody who just radiates absolute unconditional love because you have mastered complete self-acceptance and complete self-love, and so you're just radiating that energy out, and everybody who comes into contact with you experiences that, and that then becomes that key that unlocks that process of awakening within them. But understanding that everybody has free will, and regardless, we all have a choice. We all have a choice whether to follow our intuition or not, whether to awaken or not. And so it's not judging anybody's decision and anybody's journey, and having that full allowance. I have full allowance of my own journey, and therefore I have full allowance of somebody else's, even if I can see their potential and how their lives can be, and they're choosing to not see that and not live and experience that. That's their journey. That's fine. So your soul purpose, your soul mission, nothing in our lives has been by accident. Everything has a reason. And, whether it's our date of birth, place of birth, the name that our soul chose, the parents, the experience, that we were born into, where we were born, everything, our soul chose everything. We each had an individual experience that our soul wanted, and therefore it set up everything, the people around us, everything to enable us to experience that fully. So your soul purpose can be found in your name. It can be found in your birth chart. It can be found in your numerology. There are so many different paths to connecting with your soul purpose, your soul mission, and your gifts and talents. I mean, I've studied astrology. I'm not an astrologer, but I know that I've looked at my gene keys. I've looked at my numerology. I've looked at my astrology. And I've looked at my name, because through my journey, that's where my inspiration has taken me. I've actually trained to do soul contract readings, so I know through my own experience that within the letters of our name, the vibration, the frequency that we brought through with our own birth name, therein lies our talents, our gifts, and our mission. Ultimately, we are all here to embody. We are all here to embody our truth. So whatever way that gets to look for you. And it is about connecting with our own creativity. So whether you're drawn to speaking, whether you're drawn to writing, whether you're drawn to dance, whether you dance your truth, you create artwork as your truth. It's about allowing yourself to fully embody your truth. And the inspiration that leads you into doing that, into the how you do that, is part of your mission. So like I say, your mission may be here to be that completely open, accepting, connected into your mastery grandparent or parent, so that you're here to nurture and support your family unit to embody their truth. Or it may be that you are a teacher, or it may be that you work in a particular place, or it may be that you share your wisdom, your guidance through artwork, dance, communicating with people. It's finding your own particular flavor of how your truth is expressed through you. And quite often we look to our childhood, because that was when we were most connected with our truth. There came a point where we started to fit in, but for a lot of people, whatever you were drawn to as a younger child is quite often something that is part of your mission, part of your soul and life purpose. Again, the specifics, they come in those doors of opportunity. They come in those lights of inspiration. So the summit, for me, I would never have believed or dreamed that that would have been something to do with my soul purpose or mission. Never in a million years. 5 years ago, I couldn't have even had my photo taken, let alone do a live interview with somebody or a live video. So it was part of my mission that I received as an inspiration. And like I said, and at the time, I had no idea what it meant. So it's allowing yourself to connect with your truth, express your truth in each and every moment, and the doors of opportunity that lead you to your specific mission will appear. So that's gaining that deeper trust in your intuition. That takes practice. Is why we call it spiritual practice. Trust and faith have been two mantras that Spirit has been telling me my whole life, and I did not want to hear it for many, many decades. Now I've surrendered. I've surrendered to trusting and having faith, and that's what trust and faith means, is allowing yourself to fully surrender and letting go of the illusion of control. I was an absolute control freak in my earlier years. I tried to control everything to keep myself safe, and that process of letting go of that control and just trusting in the wider universe has my back. I, as the wider universe, have my back, has been a big part of my process. So gaining a deeper trust in your intuition means allowing yourself to surrender, allowing yourself to take those baby steps of trusting your guidance and taking action until you've built that platform, you've built that evidence base, so that, when your ego freaks out, you've got something to talk to it with. You've got evidence to show it, to say, look, we did this guy didn't fall in, we were fine. In actual fact, I really enjoyed it felt good. And then you just progress. Some things are going to happen really, really quickly. You can suddenly let go of a whole lot of stuff and drop into surrender and following your path. And other times it takes time, and it's going to be the linear process it needs to be. It took me a long time to fully step out of my abusive relationship. And there was a period afterwards where I thought, oh my goodness, I could have been doing this in my 20s. But you know what? It was perfect. My whole journey has been perfect. So don't judge where you're at, and don't judge your own personal journey, because for whatever reason, it's exactly right for you. We've talked about the eliminating the limiting beliefs. And again, your gifts and your talents quite often are those things we take for granted. So many clients that I speak to, and their gifts and talents are obvious to me, And if I've done the soul contract, it's really obvious, but it's something that they take for absolute granted. And so we devalue our gifts and talents, and we don't see them as that. So the whole aspect of kind of clearing out your internal cupboards and really getting to know yourself is loving those aspects of yourself and actually acknowledging them and honoring them and seeing them as special, because you are. And there are aspects of you that you just go, oh, well, it's just something, it's just the way I am, or it's just what I do. I've always been that way. Well, yeah, but not everybody else has. So that is your gift. That is what you bring, your own beautiful individual brand of ice cream, spiritual ice cream, that you bring to the world. And that is how your mission evolves, through those individual idiosyncrasies that you hold that no one else holds. It may be your ability to communicate. It may be your ability to have really deep wisdom come through and share it in really easy to understand fundamental ways. It may just be your capacity to love and to be open to love. Don't negate anything about yourself. We are so used to devaluing ourselves. See your value. That is where your gifts and your talents lies. And your creativity. Allow your creativity to flow. We have this program of perfectionism, and that things have to look a certain way. No, release yourself from that restrictive box. Unlock that box. Free yourself from those limiting beliefs and constructs, and just let your freak fly. I stopped myself doing artwork for decades because I couldn't draw a horse to look exactly like a horse. So for me, the process was just allowing myself to go really abstract, to just let myself produce from my heart and allow myself to create from that space without it having to be perfect. Equally with playing the flute. I've never been taught, but I was inspired to play the flute. And having allowed myself to connect into my heart space, I just put the flute to my mouth and started blowing. Because I was coming from that place of truth within me, I was playing the flute. But no, I'm never going to be on stage. And yes, it's something that I'm working towards, to be able to play in front of people. At the minute, it's something that I still do in private. So it's a journey, but it's allowing yourself to explore your natural talents and gifts. And, they're not going to be necessarily what we have been taught to believe are gifts and talents. It's not what we see on the telly. It's not, that really obvious in your face stuff. Quite often it's the stuff that we've completely ignored about ourselves, and just taken for absolute granted. But explore yourselves. Have this opportunity to really engage with yourself and explore. The next question was about what was standing in the way of living your soulful life. Lack of finance. The highest one actually was self-judgment and limiting beliefs. Then it was feeling disconnected to the intuition. Then it was lack of finance, anxiety and overwhelm, lack of support. And then there was lots of individual ones as well. So thank you for sharing your own individual issues that you feel are standing in the way. Living your soulful life is living your truth. And we can live our truth without any money whatsoever. It doesn't mean that, in my wildest dreams, I would love to have a sacred space, to have a healing center, to live in harmony with the earth. And that is something that I have put out there to the universe. And if that is part of my journey, so be it. But I can live my truth, my soulful life without that piece of land. I can be my truth in each and every moment, with each and every thought and word and action. That is me living my soulful life. We often think that it has to look a certain way, or we get attached to something that we want to create, and that's not a bad thing. But actually living your soulful life is being your truth, being who you truly are in each moment, allowing yourself to fully express your truth, allowing yourself to be angry if you're angry, allowing yourself to be scared and upset, allowing that grief to flow through you, allowing yourself to be joyful, allowing yourself to be creative, to express yourself, to throw paint on the walls, allowing yourself to receive your inspiration and take action without the kind of, oh, but what will people think? Or, oh, I can't do that because this person won't like it. So lack of finance is something that we bring up as a way of stopping ourselves from doing what we're being inspired to do. Yes, some of the larger things do take money, but the more we start engaging with our intuition, the more we start connecting with ourself as our universal self, the more we start being able to draw in the resources. As we take steps in alignment with our truth, and we start living, clearing our internal cupboards and getting rid of those limiting beliefs that are stopping us from taking any action, and we start trusting the universe is going to provide for us, then the finance issue doesn't become an issue. I wanted to do a particular course and I didn't have the money for it, and so I said to the universe, I'm feeling really aligned to doing this course and I'm going to commit to doing it. And the next thing, I get 2 clients, and that gives me the resources to pay for the course. Sometimes we have to take steps in alignment before we actually see the evidence. I've always been a see it to believe it kind of person, but that's very, very egoic way of being. The ego wants a guarantee that that this is going to be that I'm going to receive what I need to be able to do something, or I'm not going to take any action. And that's a limit in itself. And another thing that's been running through me as well is that it actually has to seem, my ego has to believe that it's worth the effort before I did anything. So that was also stopping me from taking action in alignment with my truth. So we sometimes have to believe it to be able to see it. We have to trust. We have to take steps in alignment before the universe actually brings us that which we believe we needed in order to do it in the first place. So, sometimes we need to get out of our own way. So the self-judgment of the limiting beliefs, we can do that work to clear that. And that's literally by what's in my external landscape that's triggering me. Okay, this is a mirror being held up to something that's inside myself. And it's a breadcrumb trail. It's basically just a stepping off point. It's the starting point for us to do the work. The lack of support, again, there is nothing that we need outside of ourselves. So if we feel that we're lacking support, it's about how can we support ourselves? What aspect of myself is feeling in need of love and nourishment and nurturing? There's an aspect of myself that's fearful. Okay, what do I need? What do I need to be for myself? What do I need to give myself? It may be your inner child. It may be your rebellious teenager. It may be your critical adult. It's about coming into right relationship with yourself and connecting on a deep level and giving to yourself that which you need and require to enable you to take these steps in alignment. The anxiety and the overwhelm, again, boundaries, clearing out your cupboards, releasing the deep-rooted, blocked and suppressed emotional energy that is just feeling like you're in this pressure cooker. So take that lid off and let some of that release. Do it in a safe way, do it in a safe space. I often go out on the land. I often go out I'm nowhere near anybody, and I may just sob and sob for hours, or I'll talk it through, or I'll cry, or I'll scream, or I'll allow myself to be angry in a place where it's not going to impact or affect anybody else. And also, it's not going to impact and affect me, because I don't want other people to see that side of me. And if that's where you're at, that's where you're at. So allow yourself to release that energy, but in a way that is still protective of where you are at. You're still in resonance with your own space where you currently are. And feeling disconnected to your intuition. Well, I spoke earlier about how to connect with your intuition, and really it's about being open. So if you feel that you are completely disconnected from your intuition, it's because there's all these walls, there's all these protective mechanisms that we've put in place over our heart. We've been hurt so many times. And I remember when I was younger, each time I would get hurt, I knew I was building that wall around my heart, and I actually had the intention that no one's going to get in, no one's going to be able to hurt me like that again. So this is about acknowledging that that is what we've done naturally. It's what we've been kind of trained to do, and allowing our hearts to open. And I literally would say to myself, when I was triggered and I felt that kind of shutdown mechanism kicking in, I would literally go, I would open up physically, and I'd go, my heart is going to stay open. I'm going to stay open. My heart is going to stay open. So, it just takes work to allow yourself to be open to receive. So the next was a question on what type of guidance and support would help the most to achieve your goals with regards to authenticity, purpose, and personal power and self-love. There were three very, very closely matched, actually. One was one-to-one coaching and healing. So again, if you feel that one-to-one coaching and healing is what you need right now, then allow yourself to follow that guidance, because that is your guidance. I've received one-to-one coaching and healing throughout my journey, because, there is a time for heal thyself. But sometimes we get to a roadblock that we just can't seem to get beyond without somebody outside reflecting to us and understanding that we are all connected. We are all part of the whole. So I am you and you are me. So whether you are listening to a podcast of somebody, whether you are watching a video or receiving one-to-one healing or guidance, that person is just a higher aspect of you talking to yourself. So there are times when it's relevant. And I've certainly not got as far as I have on my journey without that support of one-to-one coaching and healing. And, so there is that place for it. So if you feel that that's what you're being called to do, find the person who feels most in alignment, that you feel in resonance with really strongly, that, yeah, this feels like the right person that I need for me right now to move me beyond where I'm currently feeling stuck. The next one was a safe online community space. Well, if you haven't already, please feel free to join the private group on Facebook for the Mundane to Magical community. It's a space that was created particularly for the summit, but it's there to be open for us all to express and experience support for where we're currently at. So, it's a space where you are welcome to post questions, experiences, to share and to receive that support from like-minded community, people who are in the same experience. The next was self-study. So again, a lot of people were saying, they like to do this work, heal thyself. They like to work through something. A lot of people do have online programs that you can work through individually. I know I've done Sandra Walters' Ascension Foundation program. I'm working on, I've got lots of things in the pipeline, but they haven't come to fruition. But I've got an online program for people to work through that I'm developing. But there's plenty of people out there. So if that's something that you're in resonance with, allow spirit to guide you to the perfect person for you. A lot of people have said about group healing and coaching. This is something that I've been drawn to doing. I just didn't quite know how it was going to look. But if that's something that people are interested in, then I will probably put something out and see how it goes. And it will be just something that is, evolving, something that just grows and evolves. A number of people said in-person retreats. Funnily enough, this was something that I was really drawn to doing before the lockdown. And then the lockdown happened and it was like, oh, okay, interesting. Obviously not the divine timing for it just yet. But, we're coming out of lockdown a bit more now. So that's something that's going to be possible, and the VIP days as well. I do want to connect more with people face to face. And so that is something that I'm looking at doing personally. So that's a bit of a watch this space on that one. And then again, there were a number of people who had written individual things like a physical location to practice group healing. So coming together as community, and, mentorships and things like that. So a number of people were saying that they did know what their soul purpose was, which is brilliant. That's wonderful. And, and it's, about following your guidance. And a lot of people saying that they don't. A number of people requested personalized feedback. And as I said, I will be getting through everybody who has requested that. Again, it was kind of like a 52-47% split on that one. I hope, if you didn't ask for personalized feedback, I hope that this has assisted you in some way. That the guidance that has come through spirit with regards to what we can be doing in this moment has assisted you. And if you have any particular questions or anything that you wanted me to tune into and do a video on or anything like that, then feel free to pop that in the Facebook group or to email me about that. Or you can find me on my business Facebook page, which is Lou Matson Intuitive Healer. So feel free to connect with me in whatever way feels good for you. I am here as a way shower, as a guide. That is part of my mission. And so as I'm inspired to do things, I do post videos and things. But like I say, during this lockdown period, I've actually done an awful lot of channeling, but integrating as well. And so not shared quite as much as maybe I thought I might have done. But this has been a personal part of my journey as well. So, we're all going through it. We're all in the same space and being triggered to a certain extent. And it's really about how we react and respond. So do we go from those automatic programs that are overlays on our divine blueprint, or do we allow ourselves to connect with that mystical, magical child and say, well, that's really interesting. Okay, why am I being triggered by that? What are the beliefs? What is that thought? What is the emotions that want to be expressed and released? And I know from my personal experience through this whole lockdown period, that actually that has really helped me. That has really helped me to allow myself to be triggered, to allow myself to feel those extreme emotions and to feel completely out of control, to feel completely disempowered and hopeless. And then once I've allowed myself to release that energy, coming into that place of stillness, coming into my heart center, and then what's been coming through me has been poetry or writing. And it's kind of like when you release that one perspective to be fully expressed, you open yourself to receive the other perspective that lays within you. So it really is about the more we clear our internal landscape, our internal cupboards, the more we can actually connect in with our inner guidance, our intuition, our deeper wisdom, our multidimensional way of seeing what is going on, rather than that very blinkered way of seeing the world and the reality from our egoic perspective. So I hope this has been helpful, and I know it's probably quite a long video, so my apologies for that, but I just felt drawn to sharing the feedback and bringing through the guidance that Spirit had for you today. So much love to you. Take care. Have a great rest of your day in whatever time zone or whatever time you're listening to this. And yeah, stay open. Much love. Take care. Bye.